Morning all. I'd like to show you another interesting game of Garry Kasparov when he was 15 years old. It was played in the USSR in 1978. His opponent, Sideif-Sade, is now an international master. His opponent at the time was about 26 years old. Kasparov kicked off with e4 and Sideif-Sade played the Sicilian defense. Kasparov played knight f3 here, e6, d4, open Sicilian, knight takes, knight c6, knight c3. It's all standard stuff so far, all standard moves in the Sicilian. Bishop e7, bishop e3 now, black castled, f4 is the main line move. And now often players with black are playing a6, but in this game we see bishop d7, knight b3, and now a6. And Kasparov is wanting to prevent b5, so he plays a4. And now black might be concerned about a5. This knight supports a5 here, and then we'd have things like bishop b6. So black plays b6 here, which is absolute standard move. Now this is the critical moment where there's a kind of little innovation, I believe, from the young Kasparov. In this position, the most common move is actually bishop f3. I have 84 games in live book. King h1, 22 games. An example continuation, bishop f3 could go like this. It's quite aggressive with g4 and g5. This is a kind of standard continuation. Very, very aggressive stuff. And actually, I think there's been a Karpov-Kasparov game with Kasparov playing black against Karpov in this, which Karpov kind of lost. It was like playing out of his style, comfort style zone with this variation. It's a very aggressive variation with bishop f3. And we could also pursue king h1 just to show the kind of mainline ideas. It could just transpose, in fact, into that. But this move, queen e1, which Kasparov played, and I'll put on the Kibitzer now, has a kind of weakness of the last move. And I know I'm sometimes playing it in correspondence, casual correspondence. It leaves c2 vulnerable, and it can often be the reason that white's game is dismantled because of that c2 pawn. Because there's other issues. These knights are kind of fragile a bit on that c file. Black now plays knight b4, going for the c2 pawn. And this is why I find this game quite interesting now, what happens. Instead of defending here, this would be very, very passive, I think, just to defend like that. Black can even strike in the centre with d5 here, with almost full equality. So that's not the intention. The intention is queen f2, and this is actually a very, very good move. It counterattacks b6. Now, black took on c2 here. Maybe he could consider something else like b5, but he took on c2. Kasparov takes on b6, and now queen e8 sets up a battery on a4, and this rook's attacked, of course. The rook really doesn't want to move to the a file. It'll be pretty miserable trying to defend that pawn like this. It looks pretty terrible and artificial. No, the rook goes to attack the knight, and so we have this offering of the a pawn now, and it looks as though is this just sloppy play from white, losing these pawns? In the hands of less experienced players, this might be conceived as very sloppy play on the queen side. So bishop takes a4. And what's the issue with this? Interestingly, there's a very, very powerful move in this position, simple and strong, which is e5. What it does, it vacates the e4 square for the knight. Of course it attacks this knight. It's encouraging the bishop to come to b3, where it's still a loose piece on b3 if it took. Let's have a look at that critical continuation. Bishop takes b3, e takes, and now if g takes, actually, let's just get this out of the way. Bishop d1 is pretty nice. That's very, very dangerous. It's winning piece, so that's black being too greedy there. So he can't really just take on b3 here. And if bishop takes f6 in this position, the strongest is actually knight e4, threatening knight takes f6, g takes, and queen g3 check to win the bishop. If bishop d8 here, we can take on d8. And again, this this bishop holding the knight here, we have knight d2 exposing the vulnerability of this. So if bishop a4, b3, and we're winning a piece. If queen b8, then we can still win a piece with knight takes, and then bishop d1. There's 3 and there's only 1 protecting. There's not enough time for black to defend. So after e5, it's a powerful move. So b3 is not really for the taking here. Black played knight d5. And we see another forcing move. E takes d6. After bishop takes d6. Again, it looks as though what is white doing here? If he moves the knight, I think he's going to be in trouble. Big trouble. The knight will just come out. Black's got a fantastic game here. So no, that's not the idea. In this position, very, very precise move is played. Bishop c5, just counter-attacking this bishop now, this loose piece. What can black do in this position? Well, he played rook d8. Kasparov simply takes on d6 now. Rook takes is, let's see, if rook takes in this position, which is not the game continuation, then white's okay with knight c5 here, attacking this bishop. Again, 2 attacks on the bishop, and that's winning a bit of material. So even if black goes for the rook, that's 2 pieces for a rook. That's fine. This is good for white. But that wasn't the case. So bishop takes d6. We saw actually knight takes c3. And now, in this position, there are 2 strong moves actually for white. Taking on f8 is strong. But Kasparov's moves is also strong. B takes c3. After rook takes d6. This materialistic a4 pawn capture is now punished with knight c5. It's again casting doubt. Are these pieces really that safe here? So what's the actual threat though in this position? Well, the threat it's not apparent at the moment, but black is a bit stuck for moves. Let's try and demonstrate it. Queen c6 takes bishop d1. This bishop d1 retreat is really quite a killing move in some of these variations. So what can black do? Well, he tries rook d2, which pins this bishop to stop any bishop d1s. And all Kasparov does now to really get bishop d1 going is play rook fd1. And now black's stuck again. He can't move his queen without losing the bishop. If he plays queen d8, we just take the bishop. So the queen's holding the bishop's holding the knight, the rook was stopping bishop d1, so it's dismantled at that point. Stop the rook holding bishop d1. So now we see rook d5, but now Kasparov just takes on d5 and plays bishop d1. And this is winning material. This is not the most spectacular game. I just think it's very, very interesting how an early deviation with queen e1, which seems to offer, queenside pawns, actually seems to be a very, very precise kind of bit of chess technology here. Queen e1 to prompt knight b4 and all this stuff with queen f2 and e5. It's all very, very powerful forcing moves, many of which are validated by Houdini as being like the top moves in the position, in fact. So I think a very, very interesting game theoretically, departing from the more common bishop f3 or king h1. Hope you enjoyed that. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.